The Great Equalizer by John V Panella. As we enter the time of change, it becomes all too apparent that fear and despair begins to overcome all of us. Everywhere we turn, we are hearing negative information that is slowly but surely grabbing us around the neck and squeezing. At times I also feel hopeless to look beyond the tragic illusion around us towards a more pleasant and endearing future. I can only wish, as do many others, that these horrific paradigms that are being discussed through multiple formats are nothing more than an attempt to create disorder. Yet we all know that unfortunate events do take place, and we have also witnessed innocent people suffer traumatic situations. All of us gander at the nightly news and sigh in despair over the constant bombardment of one malicious event after another. With all that the human mind has to cope with, it only makes it that much more difficult to consider even more diabolical activities that are being engaged upon an unknowing people. Why is it that we have to endure so much? Why do we have to be plagued by others that fancy themselves as gods? Why are there people that desire control over others? Yet, in almost frightening detail, these same controllers have never been able to recognize one true axiom of reality, and that is all things come with the Great Equalizer. Back in the early 30s, one man began to ride a wave of dictatorial leadership. As with these same historically documented events, these strange occurrences seem to start out innocent enough, but tend to ride a colossal wave of evil intent. As more and more become propagandized and lured into massive deception, the controllers begin to harness more and more power for a total, complete takeover of our personal liberties and freedoms. I am ever so amazed as I hear the hundreds of stories of how foreign names have invaded our country and how we are being slowly led into another Nazi state complete with concentration camps and extermination quarters. I have heard and read of reports of a total dictatorial state complete with orders to engage in martial law and set this once great country into a police state, with evil troops marching down our streets while depriving its own citizens of their rights to the pursuit of happiness. These same scenarios have plagued mankind for thousands of years. War has always been the trading post for all civil liberty, as we cattle become drawn and quartered through the evolution of time. We are terrified through manipulation and sectoring as we are divided as lots for the few that rectify their lot in life as a cast ahead of most. We are blanketed by doom and gloom as part of the treasonous action committed by the few that understand the psyche of the human mind, knowing full well that the preservation of one's life is the hallmark of all battle, and the gift of life, or the pursuit to that end, will always be the caretaker of our illusion. For they know that the majority will do whatever it takes to spare themselves, even to the point of sacrificing others. We become nothing more than a calculation to maneuver into whatever direction appeases those that want to feast at the banquet of the damned. Even in a day of what would appear to be a higher civilization, we are still manipulated as sheep led to the slaughter. And yet, in all of this despair and negativity, one question catapults its way through my mind. If the power elite that have so successfully commanded an engagement of attack against the weaker of the race, and have organised such fluent action with meticulous calculations, why is it that they continue to seek for that ultimate control? How is it that they have not already taken control, or are we already being controlled? Nevertheless, if the latter be true, then why is there a need to create activity that leads us into a more slave-like state of mind and control if we are already being controlled? There is true dichotomy here that needs to be addressed. Recently, I have heard frequent stories of how certain ones are spreading information around that we are powerless to defeat our aggressors. We are being told that we are being monitored, watched, followed, set up, and being marched into a final decree where many are going to lose their lives. Then there are others that are spreading the illusion we need to prepare to fight and stop this enemy from their attack, lest we give up our rights. Sadly, it doesn't end there. We then hear from those that feed on prophetic prophecies that these events have to occur to appease the mindset of some, that this is a punishment by the great God. We are being led to believe that the evil battle between Satan and God is about to commence, while the rest of us in the middle are going to be annihilated unless you are lucky enough to have become the chosen few who escape without harm or despair. as to even think that some would reconcile themselves special above others. These are the events that we as humanity are defiled with as we enter a new millennium. Today we are living in a transient state of fear. We are being paraded around like pieces on a chessboard, and our minds are being indoctrinated with multiple ideologies of what our destiny holds, mostly destruction. It seems we are being told to fear everything. Doesn't even end there. We then have certain religious ideologies that take this fear even to the highest of all levels. That being, after you suffer the worst of all tragedies here, you will burn in an eternal fire forever organised by God, for the crimes committed during our physical life. We are being subjected to a continuous battery of events that have one thing in common: our death and the loss of our spiritual souls. From an asteroid colliding with planet Earth to an alignment of the planets creating destruction, through Y2K and one physical or spiritual attack after another, on and on it goes. We as a race of beings are being subjected to the most cruel battle that any battle or war could create. No matter what anyone concludes, someone or group has become fearful themselves of losing a great battle. Propaganda is used to control thinking. And if that thought process is being manipulated to be filled with fear, then our awareness should become awkward to at least reason the fact that someone or group is attempting to control using our fear. Which brings back the big paradigm question: why? If they have the power, why create fear? Why use propaganda at all? You see, those that have no control are the ones creating a mindset to control. It is an illusion being produced to solicit an awareness of total subjectivity. But again, why? Why does anyone have to promote control to gain control if they already have the control? The answer, my friends, is startlingly simple, and is historically accurate as well. It defines the greatest law of the universe, the magistrate glory of total fairness. I call it the Great Equalizer. Going back to that awful period in our recent history where one man named Adolf Hitler began to operate a rule that included a racial decree that certain humans were more superior to others, we came to find out that many human beings were put to their death because they had different beliefs, colour of skin and/or blood. It was then we learned of a mass extermination of everyone that did not fit the Aryan creed, and we read through our fainted history of such diabolical attacks and horrendous agonising cruelty against humanity, in the worst of all ways conceived. However, what fails to be written about in this horrendous historical data is that Adolf Hitler did not succeed. Oh yes, many suffered, many died by cruel and unheard of ways, yet the overall operation failed. Did it fail because the United States caused it to fail? Is that what really happened in history? Did Babylon fall because the Medo-Persian Empire was there? Did Rome fall because of Odessa, the king of Heruli, invaded? Why does history reveal that every evil power that ever comes into power always falls to another power? Why does our world always have competition? Why is one evil man always just the beginning to another that will arise and fall? Why did Nazi Germany fall? Is it because of the great universal law, called the Great Equalizer? In my last article I wrote about how there is a type of universal computer that operates all activity within all dimensions and universes. I stated that how any of us, including those that are set on evil, can actually control the usage of this powerful spiritual machine. However, what can't be controlled are the set data that operates this creation. Within the parameters of this data there is encoded a fail-safe system that will override any false use of the actual computer itself. One design that was programmed in this data was that a polarity was created within the axis poles of all universal matter creation. This was done purposely to avoid ever there being anyone, thing or power taking over total control in the mindset of absolute evil. As sure as the planets make their orbits around their star, we see how cycles control all action in the physical universe, interacting with the fourth dimension as a controlling device. Thus, two dimensions are interlocked with one another, one being the visual and the other being the projected source of the one. What this in effect creates is a balance in the universe. This balance works indefinitely and is always in control of all activity, whether it is being consciously controlled or inanimately controlled. Whenever there is change in the balance, the operating source immediately creates an opposite effect to stop the misalignment. Bringing this down to layman's terms for all to understand, whenever there is more weight on one side of the balance, an added weight of equal projection is placed on the opposite side to create the normalizing effect. If you took a seesaw and sat on one side of it, you would collapse to the earth, and unless another of basic and equal proportions were to set on the other end, then there would be no balance. Balance is realigned when two equal forces are stressed at opposite ends to bring back normalcy. This in effect is what occurs when any power tries to rule all people's souls or minds. They will come crashing down to earth, so to speak, because there is no equal balance. It simply is impossible. That is why world control will never occur. The balancing tool is what many have called Christ. Christian religions have said for years that Jesus was going to return to bring back peace when there comes a time of pure evil. What they did not understand is that all of this was the mystical teaching of the Great Equalizer. This equalizing effect has been used thousands and millions of times throughout the ages, even within the last 2,000 years. Jesus was fulfilling that role when he appeared 2,000 years ago as the spokesman for this knowledge. However, certain ones took over what was truly taught, and a new doctrine was brought in that centered people's attention upon the man instead of his teachings. And today, scarcely anyone realizes what was really taught, because certain ones took the mysteries and adapted them into paralyzing materialistic religion. The fear that is promulgated into our hearts is done for one express reason. That is that each of us have within ourselves a portion of the power of this great universal computer. And when we are programmed to have fear and not peace, then we actually give our power to those that are attempting world-complete despotic control. Yet, I say, what these ones that are set on terror and evil do not understand is that the reason it has always failed time and time again was not because they didn't set it up right. Oh no, not at all. They set it up perfectly, but they do not understand the balancing effect. Even though they have seen it in operation over thousands of years, they still fail to understand that it is not something you can over-control. It is impossible. Physical illusion would not exist without the balance. That is what they fail to see. In all their perceived wisdom, they have never come to understand the simple truth. And because of it, no matter what they attempt to do this time, they are already failures and shall lose again. They will come slamming back down to earth with a vengeance and shall lose their control again. This is where we read time and time again of earth changes, cataclysms, etc. These are all projected balancing effects when the world becomes out of sync. Ancient tribesmen and sages have called this time the times of judgment, and so they are, but a revengeful God-seeking approval does not cause them. They are automatic reactions to all actions that are set in motion by every single soul. Be not deceived, you shall reap what you sow, but what you reap is in direct proportion to what you have sowed. Karmic accountability is the great equalizer, and that is what this all means. Every action brings with it a reaction according to the exact parameters of that action. That is why it is useless to fear and give your energy to these slave leaders, who are themselves extremely miserable beings. They have also been lied to, thinking that they are gaining a dispensation from their God, creating the illusion that they deserve to rule, and we are brought down as their slaves. It is all caused by faulty religious views that were created because of the lack of knowledge of the Great Equalizer. Yours sincerely, John V Panella.